What I've seen interviewing all these great salespeople is a pattern. And the pattern seems to be that they build a system, a process, a map from where they are and where they want to be, elements of the deal, checklists, all of these things that as reps, we like, oh, I know this. I've done this. We wing it. And that's the problem. That is not the solution. And all of these great salespeople aren't what you would think of as naturally charming and great salespeople. They're all nice people. They're all very talented. They are charming, but they're not what you would think of as the gregarious salesperson. But they know how to start conversations, turn them into meetings, and keep the complex sale moving. That's what we're going to be talking to you about today, where this rep was selling at the very high end for resorts, conferences. And she worked for Four Seasons, which is the very high end of the market. So, price is always an element of the deal. But in B2B, we think it's much more important than it really is. As long as they're getting, in this case, the experience that they want. Now, imagine this. You're selling something that's going to last a couple of days, and then it's over. They don't get to leave with part of the hotel. It is a pure experience. So there's a lot of elements there. Also, by the nature of this type of sale, you're not talking to the economic people. You're not talking to the people that typically are the true influencers, or a lot of people call the decision maker, but the kingpin, the person who is probably going to say this place or that place. Now, if you listen to this episode and watch it on YouTube, you'll get to understand the importance of process and the steps and understanding the other person and what they care about, and then how to mold your approach towards that and get the deal. And block out the alternatives, because this type of sale can very easily flip-flop, like most sales, off of pretty much nothing. It's hard to have these lockouts, but you have to have them. Otherwise, you get flip-floppers. People who want to go with you at 9 a.m. want to go with somebody else at noon, and then they go with a third person by 5 p.m. That's a tough sale. So you have to lock it down. Find out at least one thing that you have that no one else does, and bang on that so that they really want to go with you, and quit focusing just on price. You can tell in B2B if they can afford it long before you ever start the conversation with them. Let's get into the interview. Make sure you're checking out Co-Video. It's been a game changer for me this year. Everybody I know who's in the course has tried video email as a way of building up rapport, staying in touch with the person, progressing the conversation about what the client cares about. Has had tremendous success with it. Covideo.com. Check it out. Try it. See if you like it. Video is one of those things that we need to be using. Maybe you can travel all the time, but it's expensive and time consuming. Being able to do screen sharing or a Zoom call like I do in the course is insanely powerful. You get to see the other people. You get to get a sense of who they are. Video is becoming more and more part of our lives, our daily lives. And if you've seen me on LinkedIn, it's blown up my business this year. I started doing some comical stuff on LinkedIn back in June, and people seem to like that instead of just my sales tips. Let's get into the interview. If you're in the courses, I'll sum up what's going on with the one-on-ones and the office hours. And here we go. Hey, Reagan, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. I have spent the better part of 15 years in hospitality sales. I started selling single day events, so things like weddings, day meetings, that type of thing. Eventually moved into group corporate sales, selling entire programs through hotels. And then most recently went into leadership, where I led a team for a few years through renovation. That was interesting at a resort. And now I'm into consulting and training and trying to share some of that luxury sales knowledge with other people.
Cool. And what was that sale like? I'm sure it was kind of, did they view you as a commodity? What was the major challenge?
A major challenge was that we were in the luxury set. When you sell something like that, as I'm sure you know, I had a toilet, a bed, a ballroom, front desk, just like every other hotel. But these hotels, Four Seasons Resorts, Ritz-Carlton, those types of things, they command a premium, and we have to value sell to our customer. Why are they paying twice as much to come get what they may see on paper as the same experience, the same things we have to offer? So we have to sell the intangibles and the feelings and the emotions and all of that.
Okay. And I bet qualification was a big part of your job, where you found if the person only cared about price, you kind of knew it wouldn't work out, or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I worked at a lot of resorts that I got to kind of hide under that brand a little bit. So they knew, not too many people will contact a hotel like that and say, I have a very limited budget. Exactly. However, in seasonally, I sold resorts in Arizona, and you can get a steal in July in Arizona, just about anywhere. So working through a little bit of that, but you're exactly right. It wasn't a price sell. It was, we had to qualify exactly what they were looking for. As you can imagine, we did a lot of 60th anniversary conferences, a lot of, they wanted to take it up a level, and that was coming to our location, or they themselves were positioned as a luxury
company,
company, and they wanted to host something at a hotel like that as well.
And clearly they probably don't bring the economic decision maker with them the first time either, do they?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, we work with a lot of meeting planners, even companies that just employ an internal meeting planner, or there's a third party component here that would show up.
Yeah.
And we would have to sell to them and also prep them with a sales pitch that they could then take to the decision maker.
Yeah. And would that person end up coming out, or was that rare?
Oh, no, they often came out. And believe it or not, we did see a lot of decision makers. When they're spending that considerable amount of money, we did get, my negotiation would be a lot of times on the phone, back and forth with a meeting planner, somebody making those decisions to maybe narrow it down to two. Yeah. And then the decision maker would fly out to those two locations, allow us to wine and dine and show them the experience that their attendees would get. Yeah. And then, so I had direct access to the decision makers frequently, but I had to get through the gatekeeper first.
Right. Yeah. And give us a sense of the dollar amounts. What was a medium and a big deal for you?
The most recent hotel. So I started my sales career in a hotel that had about 200 guest rooms. And even as a luxury hotel, we would see a contracted meeting, a decent sized contracted meeting, be about $250,000, something like that. Deal. Then I moved over to a 650 room hotel, and those kind of paled in comparison. Then we would see things $750,000. We had, there were 9 sellers on my team, and we had a goal that well exceeded about $40 million for the year. So what we were selling, chunk at a time, would be, just to give you an example, because I know a lot of people don't understand this. Let's say company X came, they wanted 350 hotel rooms for 4 days. They wanted breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 4 days. They wanted spa, golf, meeting room, AV, all of that stuff. And we had to do a contract that encompassed everything that they wanted. That's where the amount came from.
Wow. So those are big
deals. So it wasn't just on hotel rooms.
Or just a banquet room and a meal, like a wedding or something like that.
Right. And that's how I started my career. I started my career selling just single day, meeting space. So it was, just like you said, a wedding or a day meeting, which is very small. That includes maybe a room setup fee, a little bit of AV, maybe a beverage station with some coffee, that type of thing. And it blossomed into, for the bulk of my career, I was a territory seller of those events that I just talked about. And then the last few years, I moved into leadership and that was leading people to sell that.
What differentiated you from the other people that were doing it? What made you very successful at it?
Probably the level of customer service. And that sounds really canned for me to say, One of the things that I preach over and over again is the stamina of sales. I talk about this all the time. In luxury sales, you can't fall short on any spot.
Yeah.
You can't fall short on the follow-up. You can't fall short on the close. You can't fall short on the prospecting. You have to treat them at the highest level of customer service from start to finish. So what set us apart was if they inquired at our hotel, from the minute they inquired, they got exceptional service, follow-ups. When I tell a lot of people we had things in place, there's a reason Four Seasons has the reputation it does. We had standards of, if we got an inquiry, we had until 3:00 that day to respond, or 9 a.m. the next day to respond. We had an 18-hour policy of follow-up. And these things were tracked and monitored, and it seems a little micromanaging, but to keep a reputation like that and to have it for as long as we have, there's not a day you can slip.
Right. Yeah. And every time I've been at one, the service has been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone back several times. Yeah. The one in Maui was amazing.
Oh, that is one of my absolute favorite hotels. Absolutely. Yeah. And the reason they can keep that feeling and that constant of everything, it doesn't just happen.
No, it doesn't. Nothing just happens.
They create an internal culture, and the bar is set so high that, it's wearing. It is challenging, but you have to live up to a customer expectation every single minute.
Now, I got to imagine that as soon as they leave after that first visit, that's where the deal goes to risk, right? Because they had a great experience, but it's now to go to the next one. And
correct.
Were you the first people they typically visited, or were you near the end?
If I had a say so, I always wanted to be last.
Yes. Yeah.
I always wanted to be last because I knew then they would tell me little nuggets along the way. Oh, well, the other ballroom had this, or the other front desk check-in, they were going to give us a separate satellite exclusive check-in, or, they would drop little nuggets of things that I could capitalize on. I always wanted to be last. And the other thing that was very important was knowing your competition.
Yeah.
I needed to know exactly who else I was up against.
Yeah.
Right. Because then I could research and say, well, did you know that our different seasons, or, it could be anything as simple as the weather to anything as major as, their AV department is splitting off and they don't have an in-house one and they're contracting all, you could say anything.
A little bit of fun. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Because I remember probably the fifth time I was in Maui, I had to stay next door at the Marriott because I was there on business. There was no way I could expense the Four Seasons, but they were right next to each other. Uh-huh. And the view at the Marriott is much better, but the Four Seasons is the service. I used to walk over and get the morning coffee they'd put out. It was so good.
Oh, great. That's one of the perks. I would have done the same thing.
It was so nice. Now, how did you keep the ball moving? Let's say you have a great day with them. Of course, they want a proposal, but as soon as you give them that, it's going to be probably more. You're probably at the high end, right? And
when we went to ask for the business, before we asked for the business, oftentimes, like I mentioned, I knew towards the end, because of a purchase like this with so many moving parts, we were up against one or two other hotels.
Yeah.
And I would position myself knowing exactly, because no hotel's perfect. So let's say I have three things that they don't love, and the competition has three things that they don't love. I need to make my thing seem trivial, and those three things seem monumental.
Yeah.
And that's what you do. Let me give you an example. One of the hotels I sold was way out, far away from the hotel. People are hung up on having a resort really close to a hotel. I'm sure it's easy for their travelers. I understand that.
Right. Yeah.
We were way far away. Well, for one particular client, for a lot of clients, that seems like a negative. For another client, they want something really exclusive. They're going through a top secret merger. that's all they've talked about this whole time, the people that they're bringing in. So I highlight that as exclusivity, that we're far away, but there's one access point in and out of the hotel. We can take care of your security. We can do this, we can do that. We're not in the city center where it's just a raging visible. In and out. Yeah. Exactly.
And
so
go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Why did you feel like having a system? Because I'm a big believer in it as well, because too many reps wing it, right? They're just going from the current state, the field, they get into the flow with the people, and they forget to, check all the boxes and walk them through the process. What system did you come up with, and why was it important?
Again, it's not rocket science, and that's what I start when I train a lot of people, is I say, you're not going to learn anything here new today as far as the steps of the process. What you're going to learn is why it's important to do it and do it and do it. Yeah. So kind of the 5 steps that I usually take them through is prospecting, and then follow up, and then the pitch, which if you have inbound sales, that's kind of where you start, is at that pitch location. So it's asking the right questions and, all that kind of thing. So prospecting, follow up, the pitch, and then follow through is what I call it, which is shocking, where most salespeople will kind of drop the ball, get back to them in a timely manner. That seems so basic. Also with relevant information, those
not
types
just
of
checking
things.
in. Yeah.
Yes. And then the close. So those are kind of the 5 steps. And in going through that follow through that I talk about, making your information relevant to the client is key, because you have to think about how they're being hammered with information from all of these places. They're really concerned about the price, and they're really concerned about your guarantee. Then only send them that information. Yeah. Yes, I'm sure you have a beautiful PDF that's 35 pages long, but to attach that to an email and say, find your information in here is not selling.
It's not selling. It's service.
Right.
I mean, and how did you get, because I'm sure you give the proposal and they're going to start chopping at you constantly. Can you help us off on this? Can you throw this in? Any way we can get a couple extra rooms, get the president in the president's suite? And how did you give those things, but get what you wanted, which was probably access to the people who really are going to approve this?
Right.
Yeah.
Transparency. One of the things I love about working with a third party, and I learned this back when I did weddings, is because it's a lot more business when you're working with a third party. It takes the emotion out of it. Yeah. I can say to a meeting planner, look, I'm going to level with you. I can give you 10 suite upgrades, but I'm never going to be able to give you 50% off of your AV. I can reason with her. She wants a good event, or he wants a good event for their customer. Yeah. I can say, look, this time of year, this is my give, this is my take. Tell me what is most important to your end user. Yeah. I'll go to the depths of the earth to make that happen. All of it's not going to happen, that type of thing. When you're talking to an end user, it's not that way. Oftentimes they don't want to disclose the importance. Maybe the CEO brings his family and he wants the president, these things that
the personal
you don't really, you don't really want to say, but maybe a meeting planner or a third party person will be as candid with you as you are with them.
Yeah. I kind of call that partners in crime, when you have like that champion that really wants to get it done because you're making them look better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes I will say during a negotiation, to your point, sometimes we'll go back and forth and I will say, look, these are the 3 things that I can do. And this can come from you. Yeah. You tell me, everybody's winning. We're not doing anything that isn't above board. It's just, they need to make themselves look good. I need to make the hotel shine. So whoever gets credit, I don't
doesn't matter. Right. Yeah. And that's it, because you want that transparency, because until you really know what they care about, it's hard to talk to it. Right. And right. If they bring in their family, if they're golfers, if the event is really just an excuse for a big vacation, like a sales club or something, right?
A boondoggle, yes.
A boondoggle,
exactly. Yeah. Right. And that happens. Really, what's really can throw you for a loop is when the end user is not transparent with their planner or their third party. Yeah. So they may say, this is important. What I've had happen before, I prefer they come together, because you could play good cop, bad cop all day long. So I prefer that if they are going to come out and visit, do the thing, I'd like the meeting planner, because first of all, also he or she is on the ground. They're the ones that are going to be taking the notes of the functional stuff. A CEO or, a VP of sales is going to just be looking at the pretty and the this and the that. Yeah. So I prefer that they come together. But a lot of times I will negotiate on the phone with someone I've never met for days and days on end. Yeah. And then the CEO shows up. And his or her vision is vastly different than what his or her planner's vision may be. Yeah. And then that gets really interesting. You have to think on your feet, and you kind of resell and reorganize and reset your strategy and renegotiate. And it's difficult, because then you're trying to pull things away that you gave so you can give things that are relevant. And
yeah, because I'm sure they start immediately trying to get things and trying to find the stuff. But then Mr. Big Cheese or Mrs. Big Cheese comes in, and they're the ones that really approve it. And of course, they want their pound of flesh, right? Mm-hmm. How did you make that balance?
You always make sure not to give
too much,
not to empty your basket to your mediator, because you're exactly right. It's like, I need to give enough to get in front of the end user. And I shouldn't say give, because it's not about it. I need to add enough value, listen to what they're saying, be able to pitch that I can produce the event that they're looking for within a budget or whatever it is, just enough to get them on board. And I believed, and this goes back to another principle that I have, I believed in what I was selling. I knew I was selling the best hotel that there was. Yeah. So, and I believed in that. So I believed that if I could get them on the ground, I could get the sale, because I didn't physically have to do anything. There were 600, 800, depending on the size of the hotel, other people that were going to produce an experience for this person that was just a taste of what they'd get. And then they'd say, okay, we have to go there because the experience was so amazing.
Yeah. And well, how did you get them to see that? I mean, was it an all-day event? Did you have a particular process that you took them through?
There were multiple so the way it works in hotels, they come for a site visit. It's called a site visit. And what you see on the front end is vastly different from what you see on the back end. Mr. So-and-so is coming to see if he wants to bring his conference to the resort. And as far as he knows, we have a meeting to meet. He's going to come to the hotel. We're going to put him in a nice room. He and I are going to have dinner the night that he arrives. The next day, we're going to do a tour of the hotel. Maybe someone will take him off property to experience a little sample of an activity. I'll treat him to a spa treatment in the afternoon, that kind of thing. So that is, in essence, how he thinks it's going to go. Now, on the back end, there is a sheet about this long.
A writer,
everything about Mr. Jones, everything about that man. Yeah. And his children's names, his this, where he went to college, where this happened, how long has he been with the company, his interests. We stalk social media. Is he a huge Bears fan? Is he this? Is he that? There will be a page of information that goes out to all employees, because the thing in luxury is we empower employees from base level to the tip top. Yeah. So and we encourage them to always create a memorable experience. So Mr. Jones is sitting having coffee. I'm not there. He's in the lobby. But the server in the that's working in the lobby knows Mr. Jones. Oh, by the way, there's pictures on this said information.
Dossier. Yeah.
And exactly. So the server casually walks up, starts conversation, again, making it natural and not forced, but strikes up a conversation. And, I understand that you like this, you like that. Or even, they're even empowered to say, I understand you're looking at us for a potential meeting last September. I've been here 15 years. I absolutely love it. If you have any questions that you want to ask me, because we encourage and tell the staff that they're an extension of the sales team.
Yeah.
You don't have to hear it from me. I get paid to tell you everything's going to be great. But when you hear it from the person serving your coffee or the person out by the pool or just the random employees, they care about you the minute you set foot on property.
Yeah. And that night before, when you're having dinner, what are you looking for? What questions are you asking to determine, is this going to happen? How are you qualifying them? I mean, because you know they can afford it. You can find that on the internet.
Sure. I am asking everything I can usually about past events is where I like to start. Because I want to uncover that nobody's going to come out of the gate and say, oh my God, I had this horrible thing happen at a conference.
Right. Boring.
Right. So going through, it is amazing. In a 2-hour dinner, you can uncover that they've had challenges with AV 3 years running.
Yeah.
And they do this live feed and it's always blown up and this whole thing has happened. So if you don't think I'm not going to have the director of AV call that man 3 days later and take him through step by step, assuring him that that's exactly what will go perfectly at this location. It is about questioning. It's very hard for salespeople to shut their mouth. And I'm including myself in it.
You're passionate, right? But...
Yes. But to stop and let them fit, they will continue and continue. The more questions you ask, open-ended questions, probing questions. What have you liked in the past? What hasn't worked in the past? Tell me about the people in charge that run the meeting. What feedback do you get from your attendees after each meeting? Is there something specific that you do that they don't want you to do? Is there a part of the meeting? I had a lady that was a CEO tell me, we always dress up really big for the first night dinner. Everyone hates it, but it's important to me, and we do that. So I encouraged her to maybe move it to a location that might be better suited for people in formal wear. They were trying to do it, in a place that wasn't conducive to the weather. At any rate, you can find those specific things and say, you know what, I have a great place for that dinner. They won't be as upset this year. We're going to get them in here. It's going to be very comfortable. What if we do some vignette comfortable seating? Even though the attire, maybe we can still keep that formal air, but make it a little bit more comfortable for your attendees, that type of thing. So you're really on a fact-finding mission through the entire visit.
Yeah. And I got to imagine also when it becomes decision time that they're not completely transparent where you stand versus the alternatives. How do you, block out the what I call lockout, find that one thing that they really care about that you have and no one else does? Whether it be a room or a view or some kind of service.
Fortunately for me, again, going back to the places that I've sold, because we were in the luxury market, I was the director of sales at the Phoenician Resort. That's an iconic resort in Scottsdale. It is arguably the best resort in Scottsdale. So oftentimes, if they had drilled down that we know it's going to be in Arizona, the nugget that I had was, we're the best. So it became, well, we're still trying to decide between you and this other place because a lot of times it was less expensive. Maybe they had a few other things that were, believe it or not, we even heard, we don't know if our attendees would be comfortable with this. We're not the kind of company we're doing. Yeah, it's true. We're doing this because it's a 50-year anniversary, but we just don't know it. You have to make them feel like the decision they're making is the most sound decision. And the reason they should decide on us is because we can make it feel however you want us to make it feel. That's the beauty of having a hotel like this. So to answer your question, it was to get them over the hump of why choose us over another, oftentimes was in that, we're the very best that there is, which I realize is a little bit of a cop-out. And the other thing that I was going to address to what you said was, if they don't tell us, there's a lot of times they don't want to disclose who the competition is at all. Like, they just won't tell you. We are looking at 3 hotels. Great. What hotels? we'd prefer not to say.
Sure.
And then it becomes a free-for-all of you don't know who you're up
against.
Am I up against? I'm kind of shooting in the dark a little bit. You try to do as much research as you can. You see places they've been in the past. You try to see kind of the caliber of that, or maybe, again, you're looking at company newsletters for pictures from the past and trying to get a feel for food and beverage and just all of these things. So it becomes very challenging, but up for the challenge.
And how did you kind of position your competition? Because there's so much transparency today with Yelp, and everything's pretty visible. I'm sure you can find the reviews and find the 1 stars and see what they were saying.
Yes.
And were many people unwilling to tell you what other places they were looking at?
Not too many. That falls in line of developing a relationship. They have to trust you to tell you those types of things, and they have to trust that you're using that information in good spirit, which you are. I mean, you're telling them, I want to know what you're looking between, because what are your what's most important to you? And because I've been in the industry for 15 years and relatively for the most part in the same market, I'm willing to help you. If you say, we want a hotel, nightlife in the city center and this, that, and the other, I have said to customers, you need to call the W. This is what you need. This is perfect in our market. They can give you everything that you need. Here are the following things we could give you that you mentioned, but we're not going to have that atmosphere or this or that, the other. It goes back to transparency. Yeah. Just being honest. If I've developed a relationship with them, more often than not, they will tell me who they're looking at, and they'll tell me why. They'll even tell me why. We think the location is better in this hotel, or we think that they have better rooms or bigger rooms, whatever it is. They'll just be honest with you.
And have you ever just let them go? Like if they're not a cultural fit, like when you mentioned like the W, that's a very different crowd that care about very different things.
Right. Absolutely. And it goes to, which I know you speak about quite a bit, and I agree wholeheartedly, it goes back to the relationship. I'm developing a relationship with you to find you what you need. Yeah. You've come to me and said, I want to put on this Bang Up conference for our 50th anniversary, and this is what it feels like and looks like and smells like and tastes like, and this is what it looks like to me. And I can say, okay, we can produce X, Y, and Z, or we can produce the whole thing. That would be great. Yeah. Or this is not going to be a good fit for you this year. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because certainly in the corporate business versus like what you did with weddings, because, weddings, money's a big, huge issue part. Corporate, they can afford it. It's whether they want to invest in it.
Right.
And if it's a match for the experience they're looking for, because that's really what you're selling is an experience.
100%. We say that all the time. Somebody's going to drop a load of cash at this hotel and walk away with nothing. Tangible. I guess I should correct myself. That's
pictures. Yeah.
Tangible. They're walking out of, you go buy a car, you're driving away in a car. You spend $100,000 on a meeting. What is that? And you're right. That's what you have to sell. You're leaving with happy attendees, educated attendees. We can provide a think tank that this environment can jazz up all of your, get everybody moving or show them that you appreciate them, or, what are we trying to extract from the feelings of not just the person in charge of paying for this event, but those people that are going to be there. How is this event going to make them look?
Yeah. And how did you keep them talking, keep them telling you what they care about? Because it's very much a kinesthetic sale, a feeling sale, versus anybody has a matrix of what they want. Because everyone's got rooms, everyone's got AV.
Yeah.
But they're looking for a certain feeling, which is much like a wedding, right? It's a big thing.
Sure. And that's exactly what it is. You're there to evoke an emotion. Yeah. And it's easier to do when they're physically
there
in your product.
Yeah.
Then you can, that's extremely easy to present to them. Over the phone or during a presentation, some of these larger companies that are worldwide publicly traded companies, you get to pitch to them once a year for 15 minutes. They plan 110 meetings a year. I get to walk in, sit in front of their team of event planners, and I get to pitch a meeting to them for I get to pitch hotels to them for 15 minutes. And that's a lot harder because I can't have you taste the food in a dinner. I can't sit out on the patio with you and physically see the sunset. So what I try to do during that time is evoke emotion by giving them information they cannot find on the internet. Yeah. I'm not going to waste my time doing a presentation on room counts and square footage of ballrooms and all that. They can look that up.
Yeah.
What I'm going to explain to them is what it feels like to hike Camelback Mountain and then get to the very top. And you can see 4 mountain ranges as far as the eye can see. And some people argue you can see Mount Lemmon down in Tucson. It's God's country or what, those are the things that you want to show pictures of and you want to evoke when you're trying to sell it without somebody being there.
Yeah. And how about, was there any real epiphany that you had through your sales career when all of a sudden you felt like you got it, that you really got your flow state going? Some little shift that you made?
It is back to kind of the core principle that I preach. I finally realized believe it or not, I was one of those people for the first 10 years of my career, which you hear a lot of people say, oh, you have it or you don't. In sales, you have it or you don't. And I was one of those people that believed that. I thought, maybe this was just something I was born with. I don't know because I didn't go to school for sales. It's something I got into and I enjoyed. And I've seen people be successful and people fail. So for the first 10 years, I thought, well, maybe it's just that sixth sense, And I realized that was my epiphany after about 10 years. This is a process. It is a defined system. Four Seasons is that way, and I keep using them. I work for Marriott International too for their luxury collection. I should probably talk about them as well. And they're pretty good. Again, they're just a beast. So if you peel off kind of the Ritz-Carlton, that side of things, what I realized was selling is a process of prospecting, following up, pitching, following through, and closing. And you have to do it ad nauseum.
Yeah.
And you have to do it when you don't want to do it. And you have to follow every little piece of the process, and you'll win some and lose some, but at the end of the day, you're going to win a lot more and you're going to make your goal. People would say, Reagan, you always make your goal. You always make your goal. I didn't get lucky. I didn't do anything. I wasn't extra. Or at least I didn't feel like I was. What I felt like I was a seller that never left anything out.
Yeah.
I did it the way I was supposed to do it. And that's when I sit and look at a room full of sellers, I say, you all already have the tools. What you lack is constantly doing it. And the analogy that I often use is losing weight. I know this sounds kind of crazy, but we all know how to lose weight. It's true. It's right. You eat less, you exercise more. Exactly. Right. It's a basic thing, but actually doing it is the hard part, right? That's the self-discipline.
We keep buying books thinking that there's some, magic thing of move a lot less, eat a lot more, and still lose weight. We keep looking instead of just move and eat less.
Right. And it's exactly the same in sales.
Yeah.
To be successful in sales, you need to prospect, follow up, pitch, follow through, and close. You need to do that. And you need to do it every single time. But doing it is the other thing. And you are exactly right. People keep buying books about sales and this and that and all the things, looking for some gimmicky miracle. And the deal is, you know what to do. Yeah. You just have to do it.
You have to do it. And how about as far as doing it better? How did you review every day? Did you review after every call? It sounds like you had kind of a system.
Mm-hmm. I'm a huge proponent of a CRM. I think that some of the best ones are the older ones. And I know that sounds crazy, but because it's very succinct. It's very easy to use, to keep your information in there. The ones today are integrated with other systems, and there's so many boxes and so many this. I remember distinctly moving from, and I'm not, speaking ill of their software, but I went from using something that is used across companies like Salesforce, that type of thing, a CRM like that, to a proprietary system that was a beast. And it was such a beast that it was poorly used. And you can't have a poor tracking system when you're following a very succinct, 5-step process.
Yeah.
Because every time I prospected somebody, I made a note. Every time I called someone, I made a note. Every time my life was my running to-do list in my CRM, because we, again, had developed standards within the company. You follow up 5 times before anything falls away. You follow up 10 times if it's been past the proposal process. So the only way to know how to do that with all the balls in the air is to track it very, very specifically.
Cool. Hey, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to connect with you and learn more about your work?
I am on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to do that. I like to put up little sales tidbits, and certainly available to train, speak, consult, that type of thing.
I've got a funny Four Seasons story. I had gone to the Four Seasons in Maui a long time ago, right after Sales Club, and just for a vacation for a couple of days. And it is just an amazing facility, beautiful location. They have a restaurant right on the beach, just beautiful, and really enjoyed it. Nothing but positive things to say about it. And it is expensive. It's very much at the high end. But next to it is the Marriott, which is also a very nice hotel. And, Marriotts are nice. But I had a business opportunity in Maui. I was selling to a government facility there, and they wanted to do an eval. And our company had this policy that all trials would be accompanied by a salesperson and an engineer. Lucky for me, it was in Maui. Now, the funny part of it is that I had scheduled this, and I had told my boss that I was going to this account, and I assumed to my benefit that he remembered that it was in Hawaii. And so it was on the forecast and on the plan and everything. And we made our plans. And of course, I couldn't stay at the Four Seasons and expense it. So I stayed at the Marriott, which is about a third the price. But it's right next door. It's literally the next hotel over. And there's this walkway, if you've ever been there, that kind of joins the two hotels right by the beach. So you can just walk along the beach area. Now, I'm in Chicago O'Hare Airport, and my boss calls me, and I'm making the connection from O'Hare to Maui. They had a direct flight there. And we're talking through it, and he goes, "Where are you?" I go, "I'm in Chicago." "What are you doing in Chicago?" "Oh, I'm getting a connection." You go, "To where?" And I mentioned the account. "You're going there?" I go, Yeah, we talked about this." He go, "Where are they?" And I go, "Maui." And he goes quiet for a good minute. "You're going to Hawaii for work?" And I go, "Well, that's the rule, right?" And he goes, "Well, why didn't you tell me about this?" I go, "I did." "Well, you didn't tell me you were going to Maui. If you did, I would have gone." I go, "Well, that's why I didn't tell you anymore." And believe me, I got a load of crap for it. But I won the deal. And when I was there at the Marriott, I would walk over to the Four Seasons in the morning and get the Kona coffee that they had. It was just so nice to be there. Now, it's just a funny, interesting story. Now, back to the interview. Now, when you see somebody who has a process, these step-by-step movements to keep the deal going, understanding where it gets stuck, where it gets derailed. This is what I teach in closing the complex sale. Defining this process and having somebody else look at it, somebody else help you, hear what other people are doing. Now, if you close even one deal in addition, one marginal deal in a whole year, it will more than pay for the course. But the real beauty is you'll be closing, 5 5 or 10 deals a year more for the rest of your career. This is a skill. This ability is the differentiator that we found in the last 3 months interviewing these great salespeople. None of them said, I work harder than everybody else. Not one of them said that. None of them said, I'm smarter than everybody else, or I'm more charming than everybody else, or I know how to golf better than everybody else. All those classic things that you think of as salespeople, or even I know the industry or the product more than everybody else. What have they all said? Go back and listen to them. It's all about being able to connect and communicate with other people about what they care about and having a process to keep the deal moving. Now, it took me a long time to figure this out too. How long is it going to take you to figure it out? Now, join the course. Let's go to b2brevenue.com. Schedule a time with me if you'd like to talk it through, but just sign up. Let's get this thing going. Look back. Where do you want to be a year from now? Wouldn't you like to, double, triple, quadruple your income? Or would you rather say, I'll wing it, Brian. I'm going to wing it. Watch me. Okay. You don't have to convince me. And if you're not willing to invest in yourself, please don't ask me to invest in you. You are the asset. You are a salespreneur, whether you admit it or not. Hey, I appreciate everybody listening. Tell somebody about the podcast. Listen to the other 2 podcasts, Sales Questions, Brutally Honest Answers, a daily podcast on questions that I get from my audience. I share my ideas, my feedback. You may agree, you may not, but at least someone else's opinion. The B2B Revenue Leadership Show. It's a leadership show about growth, about what's working today. So you hear about leaders in the sales, marketing, revenue generation space and what's working. You get a different perspective. This is about making more money. They're about growing a business. Appreciate everybody listening. If you see my stuff on LinkedIn, give it a little thumbs up. I appreciate that. Join the LinkedIn company page, Brutal Truth. That would be very helpful. We'll see you next time.